Some truths ring like alarms. Others arrive in a blue folder. When Nika told me she was 8 weeks and certain she expected thunder, what she got was paper. Charlotte can make a relationship feel like a new lease if you let it. We let it. Year one was patio dinners in South End under strings of lights that make every argument look premature. It was Saturday coffee in Plaza Midwood, where the barista learned our names and used them like a blessing. We ran Little Sugar Creek Greenway and pretended the skyline was cheering for us. I'm a data engineer. Pipelines, dashboards, the unglamorous plumbing that turns noise into facts. Nika worked in marketing bright decks, bolder adjectives, the art of making a room nod before you say the ask. If we had stayed inside year one, I would have bought a ring at noon and proposed by dinner, grinning like a man who believed in cruise control. The cracks did not appear as screaming. They appeared as curation. "You're charming with women," she said once, like she was complimenting a waiter whose hands lingered on a check. She started calling my hours hiding places. When I worked late, she called it performing availability. When I left my phone on the counter, she called it inviting secrets. I offered transparency introductions, calendars, my ridiculous habit of narrating my day out loud while I cooked so the kitchen felt less empty. She offered surveillance glances that were inventories, questions that arrived with their own answers. I thought I could out-explain jealousy. That's how you end up speaking a language that only apologizes. The first incident people remember happens in a conference room. Ours did. We had a midnight cutover looming, the kind that makes SREs joke about wills. I stayed late with a teammate, Anya, who owns more hoodies than one person should, but saves infrastructures like it's a hobby. Nika texted at 9,117, then 9,017, then 9,017, then 9,022. I told her I'd be unreachable for an hour. At 9:43, she strode into the lobby with a paper bag of tacos like she was delivering. She handed me dinner and a look that said, "See how easy it is to be a partner." When I didn't invite her back to the war room, she peered past me, saw Anya through the glass, and smiled with all her teeth. "So this is the one," she said. The tacos got cold while I explained incident bridges and on-call rotations to a person who could not believe work ever chose anyone over her. We did not explode. We eroded. When I went for a 6 a.m. run, she asked who I was trying to impress. When I mentioned a new hire named Marcus, she asked me, without blinking, if he was the name I'd use to hide someone else. It would be funny if it weren't my life. We broke on a Tuesday that meant nothing to the city. She accused me of sleeping with Anya because a Slack reaction looked too familiar. I said I was done answering questions that were really sentences. She threw her keys on the table like a scene from a show she'd memorized. I packed a bag and walked out into a sky the color of old receipts. 2 days later, she texted, "I'm sorry," in 3 paragraphs, then followed it with a photo of the skyline and the caption, "Missing you," like Charlotte itself was doing promotions on her behalf. I muted her and learned the quiet of an apartment that was finally just furniture. I built a small life that could carry weight, early runs, late code, grocery lists that didn't rely on delivery apps to remember me. Work noticed. My manager asked if I wanted to own a data quality initiative. I said yes because the only thing that felt better than cleaning my kitchen was cleaning a DAG. I slept without apologizing for it. 2 months after the breakup, my door learned an old knock. 3 measured taps, like someone borrowing sugar. Nika stood there, pale and pretty in the way that starts fights you didn't plan on. She said the sentence like a magic trick that had to be performed quickly before the room learned how it worked. "I'm pregnant. It's yours." The first thing I did was breathe like I was practicing. The second thing I did was let her in so she wouldn't perform in the hallway. She stood in my kitchen like a person who had never been inside a kitchen. I offered water. She took the glass like proof I could be gentle. Then she said, "You're going to step up, right?" Like she was reading from the contract I hadn't signed. "How do you know?" I asked. She bristled. "Because I know my body." "I don't doubt that," I said. "I'm asking about dates." She said 8 weeks. She said she'd seen a doctor. She said she had an appointment in 2 more. She pulled a folded printout from her tote, black and white. Nothing that we call something when we hope hard enough, and set it beside my pepper grinder like the salt and the truth could season each other. "I'll support you," I said, "after a test." She blinked twice, slow, like I had suggested we cut the baby in half to see whose it was. "A test? You don't believe me?" "I believe tests," I said. "I believe making decisions with both eyes open. Non-invasive prenatal paternity tests exist. After 9 weeks, we can run one with your blood and my swab. It's safer than guessing." She let out a laugh that held teeth. "You want paperwork for a miracle." "I want a foundation for a house." Her face changed the way skies do before rain. "You're cold," she said. "You always were. You can build a dashboard for anything, can't you? Feelings, futures, a child. I'm telling you the truth, and you're acting like my uterus is a crime scene." "Stop," I said. "Not unkind. If the baby is mine, I'm there. If it isn't, I won't be forced into a life built on hope's version of math." She hated the sentence because it was true. She grabbed her tote like she could pack a better man into it and walked to the door. "We'll talk when you remember how to be human." After she left, I stood at my counter and looked at the ultrasound until it went back to being ink. Then I did what I do when the room wants feelings and the world wants facts. I opened a folder. Before you decide what kind of villain that makes me, you should know 2 things. 1. Nika and I have both lived in the same uptown high-rise for the last year. Different floors, different corners, same concierge desk that knows the dates of your hangovers. 2. Because elevator systems in buildings like ours love their own data. Everything from garage swipes to destination dispatch gets logged like a diary a lawyer could read. I am friendly with people who keep buildings alive. It makes life better. Our concierge, Alvarez, is the kind of professional who remembers names and also your dog's preferred biscuit. During our relationship, when packages got misplaced or visitor lists needed updating, I was the one who asked. I never asked for anything inappropriate. The morning after Nika's visit, I asked for something precise. "Morning, Mr. Alvarez," I said, leaning on the desk like it could keep the world level. "We had a break-in on the garage level 2 weeks ago, right? Locks replaced? Logs audited?" He nodded. "We did. Management loved the report." "I'm trying to check my own fob usage around that time," I said. "I lost a key ring for a couple days. I want to make sure it didn't get used without me. If I send an email, could security print my log for the last month? Door swipes, elevator destination assignments tied to my resident ID. Anything associated with my unit. I use the voice menus when they have nothing to hide and a reason to ask." Alvarez paused. "Policies are real, and so is compassion." "Send the email," he said finally. "I can include elevator assignments where the system registered your fob and selected a floor. You won't get other residents' data. Just yours, guest passes issued under your name, and any anomalies security flagged." I sent the email. 2 hours later, Alvarez slipped a folder under the desk glass like he was passing me a hymn book. It was blue, the kind of shade schools choose for binders, because it looks responsible. Inside were pages that would make a lawyer hum. Garage gate swipes, lobby entries, elevator assignments where my fob called a car, and the system routed me to a specific floor. Guest passes issued under my unit credentials. On 2 Friday nights in the last month, my account showed guest passes printed at 9,041 p.m. and 10,003 p.m. I hadn't printed any. The concierge had notes next to both, requested by Ms. Nika last name, approved by desk for Unit 1907. That was my unit. I live in 1907. On those same nights, the elevator logs showed something odd. A call from the lobby at 9:56 p.m. Authenticated with my credentials. Destination 32. I don't live on 32, neither does Nika. The penthouses are on 32. I stared at the number until it looked like someone had lied on purpose and then got sloppy with the decimals. I hear the question you're forming. She used your name to get a guest pass for someone on 32. Maybe a client, maybe a girlfriend who lost her fob, maybe anything. And the elevator? Maybe she hit the wrong button. Maybe she was helping a friend. Maybe. But the pattern repeated. The second Friday, same thing. Guest pass under my credentials. Elevator assignment to 32. Return to lobby at 1043 a.m. The system recorded a second lobby call at 1047 a.m. with a destination of 19, my floor. Someone rode down from 32, then went up to 19. The timestamp was a signature that didn't know how to hold a pen. The folder got heavier as I carried it to my apartment. If I had stopped there, maybe I would have told myself a story that didn't require any more paper. But jealousy is loud and data is patient, and I am done outsourcing my sanity to noise. When Nika moved in, we linked our phones on Find My Not to Track. We said, just to make meetups efficient. After the breakup, I turned off my location for her. She did not turn off hers. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she liked the drama of knowing I could still see her dot. I told myself I wouldn't look. I looked. On the nights with the guest passes and the 32nd floor assignments, her dot traveled a route it didn't take when she was with me. From her floor to the lobby to the elevator bay nearest the penthouse cars, it settled at 32 for hours, then came down, paused on 19 for 4 minutes, then walked without a car icon down the hall to the elevator again. Not definitive. Not nothing. Nika is a brand unto herself. She posts stories the way magazines used to print covers, everything smoothed, sharpened, arranged to be nibbled. 2 nights after she told me she was pregnant, she posted a boomerang cheers from the building's glass front doors. In the reflection, a man's shoulder. You could argue it was anyone's. You could also freeze the frame and see a band of gold-catching lobby light. You could match that reflection to a neighbor we've all seen in the elevator. A man from 3203 who wears his ring like he knows it's seen. I don't like how good I am at noticing. I like what it saves me from. What made the folder feel inevitable wasn't the Instagram, and it wasn't even the concierge logs. It was my watch. Sharing health data is a love language you never know you'll regret. Early in the honeymoon months, Nika shared her Apple Health with me because she liked bragging about her step count, and I liked seeing her beat me. After the breakup, she didn't revoke access. I didn't open the app until the night after the boomerang. I told myself I was making sure she was okay. I told myself a lot of things. Her sleep chart for the last month looked like a haunted house. Solid blocks of sleep on weeknights, then gaps on Fridays, 11,030 p.m. to 2010 a.m. 3 weeks running. Steps spiked at 2012 a.m. The watch terminated a sleep focus at 2004 a.m. I know what your brain is doing. Mine did it first. Correlation is not causation. But if it quacks, it might be walking down a penthouse hallway. I added ride receipts next, because once you start building a timeline, it's hard to leave any column blank. Nika sometimes used my Uber because she liked my rating, and I didn't police joy. She'd stopped, mostly. But my email still caught receipts when she forgot to switch back to her card. On the same Friday nights, a trip from the building to a cul-de-sac in Myers Park at 2008 a.m., an address I recognized because it belongs to a person who once boarded the elevator at 32 smelling like cedar and good bourbon and wore his duty like a sport coat. Married. Twice I had seen him kiss the air behind his wife's ear in the lobby, like a man trying to be affectionate without smudging a portrait. I didn't know anything. I knew enough. I texted Nika the next morning and told her I would pay for a non-invasive prenatal paternity test at the clinic on Kings and 4th. I told her I would drive. I told her I would sit in the waiting room and read a book about child sleep cycles so I would be useful either way. She responded with 4 sentences that could be summarized as, "Be a man." She said tests were an insult. She said her therapist told her I was weaponizing doubt. She said this was why she left me. The last part made me laugh out loud and then hate myself for it. I did not text back with logs. I did not send screenshots. I did not announce what the concierge had handed me like an award. I called my mother. She lives 3 hours away and believes soup is a verb. She listened the way people do when they have raised a person who apologizes for everything. "You are allowed to be careful," she said. "You are allowed to not build a life on someone else's emergency." My father listened and said what men like him say when they try to love their sons with structure. If it's yours, you show up. If it's not, you don't. Make sure the paper says which is which. Don't send emails at night. I told Mike. He is the friend who says the thing you're not brave enough to say to yourself. If you do the reveal, he said, don't do it to win. Do it to end. I'm not revealing anything, I said, defensive because I knew I would. I'm just gathering facts. Man, he said, a folder is just a reveal without the confetti. 3 days later, Nika texted me a photo of tiny shoes, gray and ridiculous. She wrote, "Stop fighting it. Be decent." She followed with, "I told my parents we're meeting Sunday to talk about next steps. They're driving in. 6 p.m., Bellamy's. You'll be there, right?" She did not ask. She scheduled. I called Bellamy's and asked for a corner booth. The host asked if it was a special occasion. I said yes and no. I earned a shirt that had only met holidays and landlords. I put the concierge folder into a blue plastic cover because it deserved its stage name. I printed a 1-page timeline because people don't read binders when they're angry. They read captions. I added a second pocket to the folder with a lab order form for the non-invasive test. My insurance info already filled in. Consent line flagged. Before I left, I stood in front of my hallway mirror with the folder tucked under my arm. The man looking back at me was recognizably me, but with corners showing. I do not like confrontation. I don't even like complaining about bad coffee. But there is a kind of quiet that arrives after you've been lied to enough times. It makes you capable of putting a folder on a table without raising your voice. Bellamy's smelled like oak and butter, which is to say, like a place where people pretend to be kinder than they are. Nika's parents arrived before she did, which is the only thing that went my way that evening. Her mother hugged me like I had already said yes to something. Her father shook my hand with a grip that tested whether I was the kind of man who installed shelves without a stud finder. I ordered sparkling water and called it a plan. Nika came in 10 minutes late, radiant in a way you can buy with good lighting. She kissed her mother's cheek like a commercial and slid into the booth without looking at me. "Thank you for coming," she said, as if I were a guest on a show she produced. "We're here to talk about the future," her mother said. "No blame, no picking apart the past, just support. A baby needs a village." "A baby needs the right parents," I said, not loudly, not unkindly. "And parents need facts." Her father frowned. "You doubting my daughter already?" "I'm requesting a test," I said. "Then I won't doubt anything." Nika rolled her eyes, a teenager in a 26-year-old's face. "Can we not do this? I'm exhausted." "We won't be long," I said. I slid the blue folder onto the table like you set down a birthday cake you didn't ask for. I brought something so we can have one conversation instead of 50. Her mother reached for it because mothers reach. Her father put a hand on the folder because fathers block. Nika watched me like she'd seen this episode and hated the ending. I opened the folder, pulled out the single-page timeline, and laid it next to the bread plates. "On these dates," I said, tapping softly, "guest passes were issued under my unit credentials. I didn't request them. The elevator logged authenticated rides to 32. That's the penthouse level. The returns don't hit my floor until after 1. On the same nights, Ride receipts from my account show trips to Myers Park at 2008 a.m. Find my location for your phone, which you never revoked, shows movement that matches the logs. Your Apple Watch shows sleep gaps at those times. I'm not presenting this to humiliate you. I'm presenting it because if a child is involved, we don't get to be poetic. We get to be right. Her mother's eyes went from the page to Nika's face like she was tracking weather fronts. Nika? Nika laughed in a way that meant not laughing. He's building his little case. He always does. He wants a lab to tell him how to feel. I want a lab to tell me whether to sign a birth certificate, I said. Her father picked up the top page, read the dates like they were invoice amounts, and set it back down. You think this proves anything? Elevators break. Apps are wrong. He's a data person. They think charts are God. Dad, Nika said, the syllable a warning and a plea. I slid the lab order across the table. This is the part where we choose to be adults. We can schedule a non-invasive prenatal paternity test. It's safe after 9 weeks. I'll pay. I'll drive. If the result says I'm the father, I am in. If it says I'm not, I am out. But either way, this. I touch the folder, stops. No whispering my name in group chats. No telling people I abandoned anyone. We don't get to lie to a baby. We don't get to lie to each other. Her mother's mouth trembled, a bridge trying to hold. Sweetheart, she said to Nika, voice like a recipe she hoped would save dinner. You didn't? Nika's face flickered. For a second, the brand left and the person stayed. She looked at the page, at me, back at the page, then at the bread plate like it might offer counsel. Can we not do this here? She whispered. Please. I folded my hands. The blue folder lay open between us, all the civility I could afford. We're already doing it, I said. Kindly, quietly, without an audience. My phone buzzed face down on the table. A text from Mike. You breathing? I didn't flip it. I watched the small muscles in Nika's jaw argue with each other. I could see the version of the evening where she slid the folder off the table and onto the floor and kicked it under the booth with her heel. I could see the version where her father stood up and told me what kind of man I wasn't. I could see the version where I apologized for the data and offered to believe a story instead. This was the last second I still had a choice about who I wanted to be when someone else's mouth formed the next sentence. I kept my voice low so the oak and butter would forgive me later. Test, I said, and the word sounded like a door hinge that had finally found oil. Then talk. Nika closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was water there that didn't yet know whether it belonged to rain or to glass. She reached out and touched the blue folder with one finger, like a person checking the temperature of a pool they might drown in. Nika's finger stayed on the folder a second too long, like she was testing whether truth had a temperature. Then she nodded once, small and furious. Fine, she said, voice sanded down. Schedule it. Her mother's hand found her forearm. Her father didn't speak. The server drifted by and pretended not to notice the laws of our tiny planet had changed. I slid the lab order across the table. Tomorrow morning, clinic on Kings and 4th. I'll drive. You can bring whoever you want. Nika's jaw moved like it was chewing a sentence she didn't want to swallow. I'll be there, she said. The bill came. Her father grabbed it like a reflex. I left cash for the sparkling water and the portion of courage I had borrowed from the oak and butter in the room. Outside, Mike's text was still face down in my pocket. You breathing? I texted back. Inhale, exhale, repeat. The clinic smelled like lemon and assurance. A TV on mute showed a cartoon about swaddling, while the captions argued with the drawings. Nika wore a hoodie with the strings pulled even. Her mother came and sat 2 seats away, a Switzerland of upholstery. The phlebotomist called Nika's name, and she stood like the floor had given her permission. 20 minutes later, my name, a cheek swab, a signature. The tech labeled vials as if neat handwriting could stop time from doing what it does. 7 to 10 days, she said. Usually sooner. I nodded like I believed in mail. On the way out, we crossed the lobby with the mirrored wall, the kind architects install for selfies and donors. In the reflection, we looked like four people who had been told to hold their breath for a long time. Nika stopped at the door and finally looked at me, really looked, the way people do when their story needs a new narrator. "If it's yours," she said, "like a dare and a prayer, you don't get to say later that you didn't get to choose." "If it's mine," I said, "I won't say later. I'll say now." Her mother's eyes softened the way bridges do when they're not sure they can hold. "We left it there. Waiting is a sport I do not play well. I tried. I worked. I exercised. I cooked actual meals on purpose. I let my phone sleep in another room. It still hummed like a bee trapped behind glass." Nika went quiet online for 3 days, then posted a beige square that said, "Privacy is love," with comments off. The registry link in her bio disappeared, then came back with delivery set to contact planner. A mutual friend texted me a screenshot and typed, "She's rebranding." I typed back, "We all are," and closed the conversation like a cupboard. On day 4, Alvarez slipped me an envelope under the security glass with my name and a handwriting that could pass a background check. Inside was a one-page letter on building letterhead, reminder that guest passes issued under a resident's credentials must be requested by the resident. Misuse would result in suspension of privileges and potential fines. A note at the bottom in Alvarez's neat block letters, "This went to all residents after. Recent anomalies. Not only yours. You could put a halo on a policy if you send it to enough people." "Thank you," I said, "for the policy, and for being who you are." He tapped the desk once, gentleman to gentleman. "We like things tidy," he said. On day 6, at 7:18 p.m., my phone rang from a number I didn't know. "This is the counselor from the clinic," the voice said, soft, trained. "The verbal version of a chair pulled out for you." She verified my birth date and asked if I was in a place I could hear. I sat on the edge of my bed and watched my hands behave themselves. "The result is non-exclusionary for you," she said, and then the part of the sentence that mattered, clear and flat. "Probability of paternity less than 1%. She asked if I wanted the report emailed and mailed. I said both. I thanked her as if she had done me a kindness, because she had. Clarity hurts, but it also sets bones. I did not call Nika right away. I did not call anyone. I put the phone down and watched the version of my life that had been whispering in my head roll itself up like a rug after a party. Then I unrolled the room again. Same walls, same table, less noise. I texted Nika one line. "I have the result. Can we meet?" She replied, "Tonight, not Bellamy's, downstairs in the lobby, 8 p.m. Her terms always sounded like invitations when they were really stage directions. The lobby of our building has 2 moods, weekday business and weekend theater. This was somehow both. A couple in workout gear argued quietly about whether quinoa is a texture or a punishment. A dog decided the polished floor meant ice skating. The concierge pretended to be bored. I sat in a chair that makes everyone feel like they're in a magazine and waited. Nika arrived first. She looked like someone who had practiced looking composed and then remembered practicing is not the same as being. "Well," she said. I handed her the sealed copy because some truths deserve official paper. She broke the adhesive with a fingernail and read in a speed I recognized from her pitch deck days. Then the sentence hit. Probability, less than 1%. The air between us stopped trying to be air. She closed the report and held it in both hands like a ceremony. For a second, I thought she might throw it at me. Instead, she sat. "Those tests," she said, even softer than the counselor, "are very rarely wrong." "I know," I said. She put the envelope on the low table as if it were a visitation photo. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said. "I told myself the math was in our favor because it made me feel braver. I told myself you'd be better than the other options. I told myself a lot of things." We both looked at the concierge desk. Alvarez pretended to be helping someone with a package lookup that involved a lot of typing and zero urgency. Nika's eyes glistened and blinked. "I'm sorry," she said. "It wasn't strategy. It was weather." "You need to tell the right person," I said, keeping my voice low enough that it stayed ours. "And HR if you told them it was me. And your parents." "I know," she said. "I'll fix what I can." She laughed once. No joy in it. I always thought fixing was a brand identity. Turns out it's just a long line of phone calls. A voice behind us said, "Nika." We both turned. A woman stood by the elevator bank, elegance that didn't apologize for itself. I knew her in the way you know someone you've watched perform intimacy at a distance, the wife from 3203. The gold band, the cedar and bourbon lobby kisses. She looked at Nika, then at me, then at the envelope on the table with the clinic's logo peeking out. Her eyes did the math and then did something more dangerous, subtraction. "Mrs. Hale," Nika said, "the way you say a teacher's name when you realize you forgot the assignment." "Don't," Mrs. Hale said, calm like a lake on a day you should not swim. "I got a copy of the letter about guest passes." She raised a paper between two fingers without entirely showing it. "Our concierge is very professional. Our building management is very thorough. I had questions. 323 has had a lot of visitors." Her eyes flicked to the elevator display that still showed 32 lit. "I thought they were clients. Of course I did." She looked back at Nika. "I needed to see what a client looks like when you tell her math is love." Nika's face did something I'd never seen it do. Stop performing. "I'm sorry," she said again, to a different person, and I realized there are infinite versions of that sentence, and none of them are repeats. Mrs. Hale looked at me finally and nodded once, a civilian salute. "I don't need anything from you," she said, "but thank you for whatever you thought you were doing." She turned back to Nika. "My lawyer will handle the rest." Then she pressed the elevator button, stepped into a moving box that knew her perfectly, and disappeared behind mirrored doors that reflected all of us not quite as we were. We sat with that for a while. The lobby became itself again. The dog figured out the floor. Alvarez looked up, met my eyes, and gave a nod so subtle I could pretend it didn't happen. "I'll send the email tonight," Nika said. "HR, my parents." "Good," I said. "And Nika." She didn't look at me. "You don't get to say I humiliated you," I said. "Not after all this. But I hope you get to say you told the truth when it counted." She nodded without nodding. I stood. "Take care," I said. She reached for the envelope and held it flat against her chest like a cooling cloth. I walked to the door and let it flat against her chest like a cooling cloth. HR at her agency wrote the next day. Very formal. "We retract prior implications. We apologize for any reputational harm. We have reminded staff of our policy regarding relationships that may create conflicts of interest." The creative director for 3223 went on, "Leave. Pending review. Corporate is a language with few adjectives and one clear verb, distance." My own HR closed my file with a sentence that tasted better than any vindication. No findings. Case resolved. Maya DM'd me a single emoji that looked like a tiny flag finally put into the right corner of a map. I replied with a check mark, and then, because we are what we practice, asked her how her RFC review was going. The pager stayed quiet all night like a well-trained animal. Nika kept her word. She texted to say she'd told her parents the truth. Her mother called me to apologize for the way she had wanted a villain to steady her heart. Her voice wobbled and then found road. "We're taking her home for a bit," she said. "We need fewer mirrors and more meals." I told her I hoped Charlotte would be kind when Nika came back. "Cities don't do kind," she said. "People do." It was the best sentence I heard all week. Weeks passed. The building felt different. You would think it wouldn't, that walls don't learn, that elevators don't remember. But the 32 lights stopped flickering on in the middle of the night. The lobby regained its innocence. Alvarez learned the names of 2 new dogs. Mrs. Hale came and went with a lawyer's iron in her spine. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Some wars do not require allies, just witnesses who don't interfere. One Saturday, as I was heading out for a run, a man stepped out of the 32 elevator with a suitcase and a look that understood math. He passed me with the humility of someone who'd forgotten which floor housed his own conscience. It was the first time I'd seen the penthouse empty a man instead of fill him. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exactly as vindicated as a spreadsheet. I adopted a rhythm instead of a dog this time, but it felt the same. Up at 6, Greenway by 6:30. The city is kinder to you when you see it before it dresses itself. I called my parents on Sundays and let my mother invent new soups as if she could legislate well-being. I installed shelves with the stud finder. I rebuilt my shopping list from scratch and discovered lists are just quiet boundaries with bullet points. Anya, my hoodie-wearing infrastructure saint, never asked about the mess. She asked about caching strategies and whether we could convince product to stop promising real-time metrics for systems that only breathe every 5 minutes. We laughed at the right places and left the rest alone. That's the kind of mercy you can actually use. Nika texted once more, months later, an update without adjectives. I told the right person. He's involved. I moved back with my parents for now. Thank you for the folder. Thank you for not making a show of it. I stared at the words and felt my shoulders move down. I typed back, "Be steady." She wrote, "I'm trying." That was enough. If you came here for a parade, I don't have one. No public shaming, no cinematic speeches, no revenge posted to the HOA bulletin board. Just a blue folder, a clinic envelope, a woman who decided not to lie twice in a row, and a life that learned how to run without an audience. Karma didn't send an engraved invitation. It sent policy updates, an HR note, and a moving truck on a Tuesday. That's how real consequences travel. People ask me if I regret the lobby, the dinner, the folder, the test. They think they're asking about romance. They're not. They're asking about religion. Do you believe in proof or in promise? I believe in both, but I no longer believe promise gets to go first. Love is not injured by verification. It is relieved by it. And if verification hurts, it's because love was wearing someone else's shirt. Here's what I wrote down and stuck to the side of my monitor for the next person I might someday love to read, and for myself to read before I open my mouth. My boundaries are not punishments. Proof is not cruelty. Kindness without truth is just delayed harm. The fourth sentence I added later, after the clinic, after the lobby, after the blue folder, did what thunder couldn't. If a story collapses when you ask for one fact, it was a stage set, not a home. Would you have done what I did? Would you have brought the folder to dinner or kept it private until the test arrived? Would you have told the wife or trusted the building to take its own notes? Tell me how you would have handled it and why. If this one kept you listening, hit like so. It finds the next person who needs a calm voice at 2 a.m. Drop your take in the comments and subscribe for more stories where data outlasts drama.